But I'd now like to ask Jed Davis, who's Managing Director with responsibility for the programme, to give us a brief overview of the programme and some of the innovations. Jed.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to start with Professor Schwab's remark about global schizophrenia. We are in a world where current view on the economy side, 3.5% global economic growth this year. Many believe it could be better in 2008. Sort of puts a mild smile on people's faces. But when you look at, for example, our recent global risks work, which was announced over the last week, in many areas, for example, in the economy, whether it's concern over imbalances in the US, whether it's the issue of potential for oil price rises, whether it's in the environment, increasing concern over climate change, fresh water, whether it's geopolitics, concerns over terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, issues around Middle East instability, and these are not unconnected. Any difficulties on the geopolitics side will undoubtedly exacerbate and increase concerns about energy pricing, will have an impact on the confidence and the overall impact on the global economy. So we have these concerns, and one might say in the largest sense, these are the concerns of a world that is transitioning from a world we understood to some extent to one which we've yet to fully understand. And I think it's this increased understanding of what we think are the dimensions of this new world that are central to the theme this year. We've looked through technology, society, the lenses of economy and geopolitics, and of course we look at the consequences for business overall. But our understanding of these changes underscores what we call the shifting power equation. A number of fundamental shifts underway which we can see in part and yet don't fully comprehend in total. What are these? I mean, what are the examples of what these might be? One, the obvious one, is the emerging shift of economy away from Europe and North America. The obvious examples in recent years have been China and India. But there are others. Strong performance in Latin America. I think increasingly good prospects and possibilities in Africa. The world's on the move here. Secondly, the realization, it's not a new one, but I mean it's abundantly clear at the moment, that to solve many of the global challenges, we don't have the institutional forms, we don't necessarily have the right people to be able to put at the table. One example is the G8, as interesting as it is as an entity, to get things done has to invite people. The G20 is probably a more representative and relevant institution, but it's yet to find its feet and, as it were, to get its teeth. I think increasing concerns about geopolitics, and particularly in the context of the, as it were, the flow on from US involvement in the Middle East. A lot of concern in geopolitics and the uncertainty that leads to some quite interesting challenges for corporate leaders. This is a world that, of course, has been argued that is flat. It's not fully flat. But what is clear is that the full range of responsibilities and capacity to act of corporate leaders is being tested. And all of this in the context of very important technological changes. We could argue, I think, quite reasonably that Web 2.0, the rise of communities, the potential for many more people to be involved in both addressing problems or just simply wanting to contact each other, opens a lot of very interesting opportunities and maybe solutions. One other area, particularly important for business, is the increasing leverage of the consumer and really the focus on the consumer as a major point when it comes to looking for innovation and possibilities. So with that as an introduction, let me give you a bit of the structure of the program and some of the salient elements. We built this around 4 pillars. I like to think of them in a way as lenses looking at the global system. One, technology and society, with a particular focus around issues of identity and community, which one can read in great detail every day, most parts of the world. and the evolution and development of networks. Secondly, in geopolitics, the need for fresh mandates that allow us to adequately make a dent into some of these global challenges, but also increasingly mandates to address regional and in many cases, national issues. The new economics, of course, means new centers in which economic activity is thriving and developing, but it also leads into obvious realization that business is genuinely in a connected world. If you look at the great leaders in some industries, they are not necessarily US and European companies. I take iron and steel as an example, Indian leadership, but increasingly this is the world we're in, and I think with our own launch in Dalian of a global growth company forum, we will begin to see many more of these companies on display. So what will we have at Davos? We've got about 215 sessions, somewhat similar to last year. On the opening day, we will address these shifts. We have a series of update sessions in the morning. We will collectively come together to debate what they are. We can propose, we can have an idea of what they are, but the beauty of Davos is that people come together and give us their ideas, and we hope to use that as one way of beginning to shape the opening mood and issues. Formally at the opening, we have Chancellor Merkel laying out the G8 agenda. This we think is important to understand where the G8 wants to go this year, what are the issues that they give priority to. And talking about the G8, we have a set of supporting sessions throughout the meeting. And at the closing session, we have Prime Minister Blair, who will talk about what he sees as the global challenges that we need to consider. When we look regionally, we're touching on many of the critical regions, new regions. The Middle East, we have major plenaries on Iraq and Iran, Israel and Palestine. We have an important address by King Abdullah of Jordan. On Latin America, we have Presidents Lula and Calderon, and other sessions exploring the current changes going on in that part of the world. In Asia, China, the 40th anniversary of ASEAN, looking at new business giants coming out of the region. Sessions on Africa and on Russia, looking both at government and business perspectives. We're also looking at key issues. We're looking at climate change. We're looking at responses to terrorism. We'll touch on the spreading of nuclear weapons, how we can address that, and some of our staples, the economic outlook, and issues around the financial markets, making sure that we have some semblance of control, as it were, over them, at least investigating that. Cutting across this program, cutting across the pillars, we have a set of linked sessions, series, on demographics, on strategic sustainability. For us, importantly, this is the year of the city in a way. More than 50% of the people are now living in urban centres. We have a linked set of sessions and have invited mayors to participate in a set of sessions around the city. We will again have an energy summit giving the importance of that issue on the global agenda. Let me conclude with the key point about Davos. The Davos we want to see strengthened. It's the Davos that not only reflects and discusses, but it's the Davos that begins to lay out the agenda for 2007 in terms of possible solutions. This year we've doubled our workspace. We have a large number of sessions which are about looking for solutions. We've clustered them into two areas. One, the Future Series, which looks at everything from building skills for the future, visualizing success, more focused areas such as the future of mobility, how do we design sustainable cities, and so on. And coming back to the CEOs who are so important at Davos, looking at how they can collaborate to innovate, looking at, again, at globalization, the issue of talent in the world, and so on. So our hope, our aim, is to have a Davos meeting at Davos where we can ensure productive outcomes, new ideas, new initiatives that we can take into our ongoing activities throughout the year and make a difference. Thank you.
Jed, thank you very much. We've seen the programme. Let's have a look now, maybe some of the people who will be at our annual meeting this year. Starting with Pt2, our Managing Director, who has responsibility for many of the industry issues here. Peter, maybe you can run us through some of the business figures that will be at the annual meeting.
Sure. As you know, business is always strongly represented at the annual meeting. But this year, we have an exceptionally strong presence of business, both geographically and at the level. Let me give you some figures. So you have already heard from Professor Schwab that of the 2,400 participants, 50% is from business.